Hey gang, it's Michael Smerconish. I'm at the SiriusXM headquarters in Midtown Manhattan with my new best friend, Kevin Costner. and look, these are listeners. They know this. These celebrity things, they don't usually go well for me. Arnold, Sean, Roger. So I'm hoping for a good outcome with my man Kevin Costner. What do you think, gang? Yeah? Does it feel good? And just to get the vibe, do you see the shirt? Okay, check that out. Little Western wear. This is something you would wear, am I right?
Yeah, I guess, and maybe it's like that thing. Get ready for a football game. Let's go. Did you go?
It was so cool last night to watch Horizon, An American Saga, Chapter 2. I'm at liberty to share all my thoughts about it. Awesome. Love it.
Thank you.
I love it. I think it's really great. And so many things came home for me now in Chapter 2 that I didn't quite appreciate in Chapter 1. So I want everybody to watch it, and we're going to talk extensively about it. But there's an elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is that while I was with you in a very small screening for Horizon Chapter 2,
right,
the world was watching a different show. They were watching Yellowstone. I have to ask, because of the way it all ended, I guess there's no way to avoid a spoiler alert, but are you cool with what aired last night?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I didn't know it was actually airing last night.
Really?
That's a swear to God moment. I swear to God. I mean, I've been seeing ads with my face all over the place, and I'm thinking, gee, I'm not in that one. I'm not in this season, but I've been seeing. But I didn't realize yesterday was the thing. I really had my focus has been on what I was having to do, and I got a few calls to me. So you think sometimes I'm like just a passenger in my life. You know, there's a lot going on, and somebody said, it played last night, and I said, okay. So no, I found out about it this morning actually.
Okay, so you didn't see it.
No, I
but
didn't.
Did you know how they were going to deal with it?
No, I didn't. That's their business. I gave it 5 seasons. A couple times talked. I didn't know I was going to even do it that long. There was a couple times where I talked about possible endings for myself.
I can't imagine that was one of them.
No, what I heard was I heard what it was, but no, I had listen. They're smart people. Whatever they're doing, they'll figure it out. But yeah, I had come up with 2 possible endings back when it wasn't going to go as long as it did go.
But you're not displeased. You're okay with the way that it ended?
The way the show?
Yeah.
You mean how
they dealt with your character?
No, I didn't see it. I heard it's a suicide. So that doesn't make me want to rush to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to say this. Okay, I'll carry the laboring oar. It's not what I would have hoped for Governor Dutton. Governor Dutton never struck me as a suicide kind of guy.
They're pretty smart people. Maybe it's a red herring. Who knows? They're very good, and they'll figure that out.
All right. Now that I've seen Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of Horizon, I think I understand how scheduling really was the reason that you had to leave that behind, because this is such a massive project that you've undertaken.
Yeah, I didn't really have to leave anything behind. There were the gaps that were there. There was contractual things that would allow for both things to be done, but because both things were contractual, you had to make room for the other thing. There was room, but it was difficult for them to keep their schedule. It seemed to be, it was just too difficult for them to do it. There was the time there. What happened, you can deal with it. But I didn't leave. I didn't quit the show. Okay, I had made a contract to do all 3. There was a contract in place to do all 3, and within about a 8-month period, 2 more different kind of contracts were being negotiated. Not at my request, but at their request to try to do things. I accommodated them on those extra 2 things that changed things. And finally, when they wanted to change it a 3rd time, because I had my obligations to do, I had 300 people waiting for me, I couldn't help them anymore. Right. I just simply couldn't help them. But I didn't quit the show. There was just, everybody has to live up to what they say they're going to do. And it doesn't matter what business you're in.
Are you a family history, genealogy kind of guy?
I'm not, but I've had some things sneak up on me actually. Even one where Horizon is concerned.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, I had one. You know, I've told people that I had this idea in 1988 for Horizon, and it eventually evolved into 4. But if you look at the original script, there's a backstory moment. There's 2 of them actually. Especially if you've seen the first one, and I hope people will find it. What the people that have already seen it, and people maybe listening here, will go see it. There's you know, when you do a conventional movie, a lot of times there's just the subplots don't have a chance to get in there. But in that original movie, there's one subplot where the character says, "Where you been?" You know, I said, "Montana. What happened up there?" I had some trouble with these guys. And now in the saga, there's an hour and a half devoted to what that trouble was. You know, but in a lot of American movies, you just hear these certain lines. Had some trouble with some guys, and that's supposed to...
Sounds like a Philly thing.
That's supposed to...
Doesn't it?
Yeah, had some trouble with some guys. and that's a level of character, but we'll never know what that's about. That's, I think, the wonder of Horizon, that these stories eventually play out. There's another one at a very critical moment towards the end of that particular script where a woman can't quite understand the friendship between these 2 guys because there was kind of a competition over her. And at one point, you know, she says, "What is it about this guy? What is it about this guy?" And he says, "He saved my life in Andersonville prison." And Andersonville prison, as we know historically, is one of the most awful moments of the Civil War, where Union soldiers were being held in the South. And it was so depraved that it's you know, there was a lot of prisoner of war camps, but when your name still lives 100 years later, it's because something was pretty bad. And I found out about 4 years ago, somebody sent me a thing on my genealogy, and my relative was in Andersonville, which is odd in 1988 to just put it in a story that, yeah, I was in there, and only to find out that I actually did have somebody in there.
I read that, I don't know if this is true, it was online, but I read that your father's side family history from Germany to North Carolina in the 1700s.
Yeah, well, they came, yeah, Pennsylvania in the 1600s.
Nice.
Then moved down to Carolina, and then some reason went to Oklahoma. You know, whether it was a Trail of Tears, whether they were married to Native American women, I don't know. But I saw a big book that we had, and I probably saw 30 names of birth certificates where it was born in the Indian Territory. Birth certificates, no state, just Indian Territory.
This is why I bring it up. I'm totally into genealogy and family history. It's funny because there's a guy in the back row. He's actually, you see that shirt that he's wearing? That's sort of an homage to me. Thank you. That's my family name in Cyrillic. My father's side of the family is Carpatho-Rusin, and Kevin Costner's wondering why.
So you just simplified it with Smerconish. Wow, that was really. Most people think that was brilliant, but that's a hard one too.
Because I think I'm not a big picture person. That's my wife. I'm in the movies for gratuitous sex and violence and to be entertained. But I think I get Horizon now, and this is the theory that I want to offer you. For many of us who are into family history and appreciate the history of the country and how we all got here, the story sometimes begins and ends at Ellis Island or post Ellis Island to a city. And the whole chapter that you tell in Horizon is something that, frankly, yes, we've seen Westerns, but we've never seen the story of how the hell did that happen? Over the span of 300-400 years, people come to a continent, as you've said, that doesn't even have a building on it.
No.
And they explore and they conquer and they fight and they take that frontier. Like, you wanted to tell that story.
Yeah, it's contested. Every inch of our land was contested. Certainly Europe was thousands of years old. We could argue that we're 300 years old. Are we really? No, there was people here for 10,000 years before us. But we came, we begged them not to hurt us, and then we would take their land when we got enough critical mass. We'd go to another place, please don't hurt us, and we'd get critical mass. And we just moved ourselves right across. I mean, the country's foundation of it was on the East Coast, and then you think about the West, and that's really where the country we know today was forged in the West. And when we pushed across the Mississippi, when Jefferson, had the Louisiana Purchase, bought it from Napoleon, it just opened up a whole nother thing for settlers to go. But what continued to happen out there was just it was just very emblematic of a pattern that repeated itself across America, which is we took native resistance, right? Settlers took native resistance as an excuse to seize their homeland. These people were fighting back. We go, well, they're fighting back. We have to take it from them. It was just a bad thing, but it doesn't also discount the heroism, the kind of spontaneity, the resourcefulness of Americans, this will to have something of their own coming from Europe, third-class citizens. There was royalty, monarchs. Your sons, your daughters weren't going to rise. But in America, there was a promise. And if you were mean enough and you were tough enough, you could make it yours. Never mind who was already there, it could be yours. And we did that. And there's something also incredible about what we did. And these people that went there did not share the same language. And these towns were not there. Most Westerns, there's a town in every Western you'll ever see. There's a town. But this place was contested. And it's no wonder that we wanted the good places, because the Native Americans knew where the good places were. They knew where you could cross the river. They knew. And these are our famous cities: St. Louis, Denver.
Last night, the best place to cross the river. Yeah, it's where your horses are. They
Right.
haven't seen it yet.
The
So
little boy looks and says, he won't cross up. He won't cross here, but he'll cross there where your tents are.
Right.
We forced them to go this way and this way. They could no longer go across. And what happened when we did that? I mean, Horizon 1 starts with a surveyor stake in the middle of an anthole, which is a little bit emblematic of we just stirred it up. But if you just stop and think about it, because it's not really taught in our schools with any real meaning, maybe in one grade for one chapter, our history. And so we kind of have a collective amnesia to what really happened. But it's really, there's a lot of heroism in people making 10 miles a day to get somewhere. And I love the drama of the West, because it is drama. It's not a land in Disneyland.
Can I share another perspective from having seen 1 and 2? And many of these people have seen 1, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to ask a question or two at some point. There was a critique of Horizon, An American Saga, Chapter 1, that there was a lot going on, and is this all going to get tied together? Having seen Chapter 2, I'm not here to say it all ties together neatly in a bow, but now I want to tell you what I took away last night. You're not telling any one individual story. You're telling a collective story. It's all of our story. Am I right? I mean,
it is. Yeah.
This is what you most wanted to do.
It's a 12-year span, and people change, and we are bringing certain stories to an end, and other stories are continuing. It's all knitted together. I mean, for me, American cinema, a lot of it is like, just imagine a railroad track. And that's the way a lot of stories are going. No one wants to get off the track. I kind of like to just get off the track a little bit, turn a circle, get back on the track. It's called a subplot. It's a story. You can't just take off. You got to get back. There's a weave. And I love the weave of people.
You're not the only one using that word,
Did you use weave today?
No. That is President-elect Trump's explanation of coming back and concluding a story. I don't know if that got in your subconscious or if he took it from you.
No, I thought it had something to do with your shirt. I didn't. No, I don't know. Sorry, but yes, storyline goes straight. But I like the diversions of things that come back, because the West is complicated. It's way more complicated than it is today, because when you all walk out of here, you're going to go by 8 restaurants, and like when you just go there, it was complicated how you negotiated yourself with people you'd never met. If we believe at all in post-traumatic stress, we realize we just had this horrific civil war. Most of those people moved west, You didn't know what their backgrounds are. They saw things, they did things. There was a skill set that was actually really valuable out in the West, was the ability to kill. And the rich guys would get guys who could kill. That's how you saw things build up. It's not complicated to figure out the West. It just was complicated to exist there. When we look at it, it's real. Again, I'll say it a second time. It's not a land in Disneyland. There was a lot at stake every day. We go to these places and we marvel at the sunsets, look at the water. I doubt those people ever did hardly once. Look at this great
And yet
valley.
they were in such a spectacular
24 hours
part of the country.
They were just trying to survive out there.
Can I say that the movie, it's beautifully shot. Beautiful. What Southern Utah?
Yeah, it was Southern
Gorgeous.
Utah. Jimmy Merle. And
Oh, my God.
I'll just tell you a sidebar that could be boring to most people, but a cinematographer, all their careers would like to shoot a Western or anything outdoors. It's kind of beautiful. We have so many beautiful cinematographers, but that opportunity to shoot those landscapes is like a dream. But my cinematographer, who I met early in Field of Dreams, he was the guy that went around me on the shot, Eases Pain. He was a young guy. I liked him very much. I had him shoot open range for me. He went out there and shot that movie. And to put it in perspective, I shot Dancer with Wolves on 106 days. And that cinematographer won the Academy Award. I shot Horizon, which is arguably bigger than Dances with Wolves, in 52 days. Now, what that meant was the one guy that was going to suffer was a cinematographer, because like most DPs, if they're going to get that shot, they're going to want that perfect light. They're going to want that perfect light. This is my opportunity. But now Kevin is hauling ass. He has to. This is the amount of money he has. He has to do this. And he took what was important to him, and he never complained. I said, we're going to shoot our story. We're not going to wait for the perfect light. There's no rainbows unless they show up. And if you want to shoot a scene against it, I'm ready to go. But thank you for commenting on that, because his work is incredible, but his character actually stands out more to me, that all his skill, he wasn't able to lean on, and yet he still made that beautiful, God's creation. I mean, these open places still exist, and I think that's one of the strengths of Horizon as well, is these places still exist.
I have to take a short break, unfortunately, but we'll come back to the Sirius XM headquarters with our special guest, Kevin Costner, in just a moment.
How's this going? Is this? Are you feeling okay?
It's awesome, man.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a little worried that my colleagues and now we just disrupt your show.
No. This is a welcome disruption. This is awesome.
But you realize, I can't emphasize it enough. When you have a chance to do your very best, and suddenly you don't have the time that other guys have had, and yet you don't complain. That's the exact kind of individual I needed with me, so that I could get it done. And so I don't know, and those are the things I carry with me about films, is there's this film, and then there's this life of film, and I'll never forget that kind of effort.
I got out of the train at Madison Square Garden, Penn Station yesterday, and they have an electronic billboard on the wall. It was all Yellowstone, and I looked up and it said, 8 p.m. Paramount. I thought, holy shit, this is really going to be interesting.
I wish I had that kind of money for mine, but I'm just dependent on you guys.
Good. We will be your evangelists. Kevin Costner is with us. We're at the Sirius XM headquarters in New York City. So let me do a better job of setting the stage, because I jumped in on a subject that was not Horizon. Horizon, an American saga. We hope 4 parts. 1 has been released. Mm-hmm. I saw number 2, so that's concluded. Big picture, where is it?
Well, I'm essentially an independent filmmaker, and it's a struggle. So I have this. We've completed 1. The second one is done. I'm trying to figure out how to get it distributed. I want you guys to see it. Enough of you have asked to see it. It's not complete till I do the 4. So my promise is to make 4. How do I do that? I don't know. But how do you get across the Mississippi? I don't know, but I'm going to. How do you get out west? I don't know, but I'm going to. It's been important to me. It's my own UFO. I've seen it. I can't ignore that I've seen it, and I know that I have to complete it. So my struggle is to make it, but my joy is in making it, and the response that I've had. I've had more letters about this movie than I've ever had before, and it's come from colleagues identifying their colleagues, the work in this movie, and just really love the idea that there's going to be four. Yeah, I don't make a movie, wait to see if it's successful, and okay, let's quick make another one. Well, how do we do that? I already have them. It's a book. You either want to read it or you don't, but I'm going to make it for you anyway. It's like I say, it's my UFO. I will try to find a mythical partner that comes into my life. If I hear the word billionaire one more time, I'm just going to throw up. All these guys got money. Where are you? It's just me. So that's okay. I'll figure it out.
You've written a big check already.
I have written a lot, but it's okay.
Are the published accounts accurate?
No, it's higher than that.
Higher than 38 million.
Oh God, yeah.
But when I said to you, I have a friend, and the friend said to me, I owe it to Kevin Costner to see his passion project because he's a huge fan of yours and cited all your. And then I wasn't sure, like, do you embrace that label of this being your passion project?
It's been a dream of mine to make it, but I've dreamed up being, Field of Dreams was a passion, and Bull Durham and making Open Range. So I have, I prayed in my life to have a direction. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was not good in school. High school, my senior year, it was D's, it was F's, and I just wanted out. And I came from a blue-collar background, so it was going to be manual work for me, and I was okay with that. I worked on commercial fishing boats. But I had these stories in my head, and coming from a very conservative background, it wasn't really how a man was going to make a living. And the idea that I would maybe go into storytelling was code for, well, you just don't really want to work. And I had worked all my life up to that point. But what I needed to get in touch with was my heart. What was speaking out loud to me. And, just because you get in touch with your heart, just because you step on your yellow brick road, it doesn't mean you're going to get there. But for me, that's all I wanted. If I could just figure out what it was I wanted to do, what would make me comfortable. And when I finally committed to the idea, it panicked everybody else except me. Because, well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? It's like, I'm not going to answer all your questions because I don't have that answer. But I know where I'm going. I was on my yellow brick road.
I imagine that one of them, you could pass that mic as I pose another of my own questions to Kevin Costner, but I imagine one of the complications with Horizon is it really is best experienced on a big screen, right? I mean, I grew up in a small community in the suburbs of Philadelphia where the movie theater of my youth is still in existence. It's called the County Movie Theater. And when I saw Horizon Chapter 1 for the first time, I thought, like, I can remember being a kid and going to a movie, and no disrespect, we would throw popcorn at the screen no matter what they were showing. You know what I mean? It was that kind of a vibe. This needs to be seen on the big screen, but as you evaluate crossing the finish line, I'm sure you're looking at streamers and different other mechanisms.
I'm just going to get there somehow. I've made it for people. It's going to exist. It's if you've got Treasure Island sitting on your bookshelf, well, this is called Horizon Saga. There's going to be 4 of them, and it's going to be there not just opening weekend, but for the rest of your life, and if you want to share it. So my job is just to get it there. It's a part of our story. It's not more important than any other movie. It's not better than any other movie, but I don't know any other movie that's better than Horizon right now. Horizon was built for people, and it's been on my shoulders. I made it for you, but I didn't curry to what I thought you wanted to watch. It happens to be 4. And if you want to join on the ride, I hope you see it at the big theater. And I hope people continue to revisit, because details are what's important to me about it. Even in a big, sprawling movie, it still spirals down to small moments. Because I have said before that when movies are working at their very best, they become about moments you will never forget.
I'm going to stay with Dad. Right?
What's that?
I'm going to stay with Dad.
Yeah, that's a choke-up moment.
Yeah.
When your son makes a fatal decision to stay by your side and fight.
Close
that
that
had
door.
to happen. But what's important in the idea of that, when you watch Horizon, that had to happen 100,000 times in the West, where a young man stayed with his dad.
Question from the audience?
I did. I saw chapter 1. I thought it was great. It reminded me of being a kid and seeing how the West was won. That sweeping, magnificent shots. But this is kind of a nerdy casting question. I see that there's some crossover, like Danny Houston, who played Dan Jenkins in Yellowstone. He's the corporal. Will Patton, who I think you've worked with a lot. Like, how does that work? Is there a finite group of actors that you choose from, or,
Yeah, I think, you have to figure out how you're going to populate your movie. And there's these storylines that you want to, Westerns are a lot of yep and nope, but Horizon isn't that. It is very detailed in its language. I think that's the strength of John Baer. This is an incredible script. I was lucky enough to work with him on it. I think John could have written Horizon by himself. If I would have written by myself, I would have needed John. John is a very special writer. It's so detailed, and these actors responded to these speeches. I mean, Danny Houston is a consummate actor. The speech that Danny Houston has in one is really James Earl Jones' speech in Field of Dreams. People will come, Ray, and America will march on. Danny Houston talks about manifest destiny in a way that's easy to get your arms around. That what makes people come? What makes people come that don't know the language? What makes them come to a town when all they see is graves? What do you tell your son? What do you tell your wife? You tell them that they were unlucky and were not going to be. That's an American spirit. It's just, they were unlucky, we're not going to be. I feel like I can make a movie out of that. And that's why we kept coming. That was the confusion of Native Americans. Where are these people coming from? Because they don't seem to be very equipped, right? They don't seem to be that smart. They make mistakes. They die over the littlest things, and they flourish somewhere. Think about that for just a second. They flourish somewhere. What they didn't know, there was millions of people on the East Coast. They couldn't conceive of that. They thought in terms of 50s and hundreds, not millions, and they kept coming. What was coming at them was a hurricane, a 300-year hurricane.
Yes, ma'am. Your question?
Hi. Thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Thank Kevin. I mean, it's what a treat
Thank you.
for all of us to be in your company. Thank you.
Yes. My question is, the young indigenous boy that's wearing the bowler hat, his presence both felt incongruent and familiar at the same time. I was wondering what he represented.
The Indian boy with the bowler hat?
Yes.
Well, what happens is in the first one, he is two little boys, and they couldn't be more different, as you saw. And that's life, right? My brother fed the same foods, lived in the same house. We couldn't have been different as night and day. These two little boys are very, very different. One has a high curiosity of white things, they interested him. The other little boy was so in tune with what he was that he would never accept those people that were at the river because his older brother wouldn't accept it, and neither would him. And they'll both perish because of that. And this one boy, there's something interesting about these people, and he's interesting throughout all four, and it's very it's powerful. So it just, it's very important, Native Americans, to just be portrayed in some things with real honest behavior. They're very different. It will turn out that you'll find out that they're not even brothers, actually, because the one boy was raised in a Spanish missionary. That's how he learned English. And when the Spanish people so oppressed Native Americans, at one point they wiped them out. They were there for a long time. We forget about our history. The Spaniards were there, and they dominated the Native Americans. And finally, at one point, they were so extended, they were vulnerable, and the Navajo and the Apache wiped them out. So did the Comanche. So I try to tie things in, but the reason is that there was a natural curiosity. That little boy, when you see him, is going to meet a little girl, and they have a real interest in each other. It wasn't hormonal. They're still young. It's just young people want to talk to young people, and they don't share the same language. But this little boy happens to. It's a literary convenience that I created, but it's certainly right out of history.
I got to take another quick break. We'll come back with Kevin Costner in just a moment. We're back with Kevin Costner at the SiriusXM headquarters talking about Horizon. Chapter 1 has been released. Chapter 2, I've had the privilege of seeing. It's terrific. I'm eager for everybody else to have the opportunity to see it as well. I was wondering, as I was watching, is there like a historian or two on the payroll when you start talking about the territories and you need to be specific relative to dress and the language and the customs? How do you stay authentic?
Well, you do your research, and you expect your departments to do it too, to do a deeper dive. Lisa Lavas, who did our costumes and so appreciates dressing men and women. She understands their silhouettes. You know, she went to get fabric in Thailand. It was important to her, the detail. I mean, she put she put all of her experience into this movie. You could see what happened. You know, you can't just go to your garage and get a Levi shirt and think you're doing a Western. We're still holding on to the Victorian age, and so you invest in that. You know, a lot of times in history, you know, I look at, because we don't have actual moving pictures, we have these black and whites, and look how people dress. I'll also look at artists, Remington, you know, Russell, Catlin, and I also know that some artists will embellish. It's like they love the necklace with the 2 bear claws, and just like maybe a studio, let's get this, you know, like let's give them 12 bear claws. So you have to be careful about which artists you think you want to copy too. So I like the bare bone guys that draw it like it was, and so that's how I do research. And then you have to take a deeper dive.
TC, a question for Kevin Costner.
Might as well take advantage, right, of having the microphone.
Please.
So, Kevin, you were talking about the respect and the grit and the drive of 10 miles a day going out west. I'm wondering, in this week where we're analyzing so much about our own history and what went on with us politically, if there's some kind of lesson that we can learn from the history when we look at immigration, when we look at what's going on in our own politics right now, is there something that we can learn from your history?
Was there something we can learn from what was
from Horizon?
I don't know that we can learn from Horizon. I mean, listen, you know, I played music about 3 weeks ago at my house. We raised money, thing called 805, for the first responders. It happened to be on 10 acres I have on the water that I mortgaged for these movies. God, I don't want to lose my land. Please show up. Please just go watch a cowboy movie. Anyway. But I elected to let my community use it because I'm not doing anything with it, maybe forever. And 4,000 people played music, and I thought I was going to be directing 3. I wasn't, so they said, "Would you play?" I decided I would play. But I was standing there on this, you know, looking at this road right out in front of this 10 acres. The ocean's right behind it, and I remembered being there out on that road in 1967. My brother was in Vietnam. My mom, we didn't have a lot of money. The way she taught us, the way the world opened up for her was the Reader's Digest. So if we were to eat a different kind of meal, it came out of the Reader's Digest. If we were to see a new idea, it came out of the Reader's Digest. It's honestly how I was educated. You know, we did green stamps and blue stamps, but my mom read about polo, and in Santa Barbara, it's a very exclusive kind of neighborhood. Polo's up there. So I want to show my little boy what polo is, you know, so I don't know, because she wanted to give me the world when she didn't have much herself. And I was standing on that stage, and I looked out there, and that was the road we went by to go see polo. And when I thought about it, I thought, I'm sitting in here, I own this land, that I remember seeing this thing. But I also started thinking 1967, 1968, Vietnam. We were the generation that was going to get it right? We were going to change things. And so I decided I usually only play my own music. But in that set, I decided to play 5 songs from the 60s. I just don't usually do covers.
What'd you play? Creedence?
Well, I played Back Pages. I played Get Together. And I played Eve of Destruction. And I think, to your point, that's why my movies are so damn long. It takes me a while to get to them. But it said the Eastern world, it is exploding, violence flaring, bodies floating. You're old enough to kill, but not for voting. What's that gun you're toting? And even the Jordan River has bodies floating. What's different now? The Eastern world, it is exploding. And I don't know when we're going to learn, but we have to become evolved. And on that wagon train, there's evolved people. And there's also people that are abusive and mean. We are just... I don't know how the cream gets to the top. I don't know when we finally understand we have to evolve in a way that's both pragmatic and empathetic, because there are people that fall through the cracks. There are the have-nots, and we can't just say, "Come on, pull you up by your bootstraps." Some people are not going to recover from the things that have happened to them, and we have to figure out that that's not just gotta hustle more. No, there's people we have to reach back for. They're not losers. There's people we have to reach back for. We have to figure out our place in the world. We saved the world twice. We were a country that just didn't have a single building on it, and somehow during the turn of the century, we led the free world.
I appreciate the way you've said it. I used to think it was all hard work, and I discounted luck and fortune and zip code in terms of where you came from. And now, older, I see the totality of it. And I'm glad you referenced Vietnam, because today's Veterans Day, and it's a good message.
Yellowstone, I didn't know that was happening. I forgot about Veterans Day. I'm just telling you.
There was an election last week?
I was out of the country. I was. That's why I voted early. I'm so much a passenger sometimes in my life.
Can I ask
what's going on? But I expect, wait a second, because I'm not in government, I expect people in government to do the right thing. Public service is about public service. It's not about your career. It's not about your ego. Your 4 years is your 4 years. Get with it and somehow be content. I want to be popular, with movies, right? I'd like to be a massive hit. The first Horizon wasn't. But it's not that hard to be popular. Even doing weird shit, you can be popular. I want to try to be relevant. It's harder to be relevant, and I have to first start with myself. And when I think about our country, and we have to think about other people. We need to. We can look at a Horizon, or we can look at 1960s. There's a lesson which is in there somewhere, but it's a moral, it's a stance, and it has to be heroic. And people, I'm very proud of Liz Cheney. I found a person who completely at odds with one side and willing to stand up, and we should applaud her. We should protect her. This woman should never be threatened. And either should anybody that stands up in America, because we admire the people of the Revolutionary War that stood up. So when someone stands up, even if we don't, we can't let her be vulnerable. As a man, I won't allow it. We shouldn't allow that.
I need a quick timeout, and then we come back with Kevin Costner for one more segment in just a sec.
I don't know what just happened there.
That was awesome.
I don't know what just happened.
I got to go back and right. Love it. Okay, our remaining moments with, first of all, you're a really good guy. To come in here. The movies, both of them, are great. I don't think you were treated fairly by some of the critics. I just have to get that off my own chest. But to be able to come in here and just sit and talk to folks that you've never met before and let them ask you questions, it speaks well of you, and I'm very appreciative. Quick question from the audience, because we have to move quickly now.
So when you're directing, acting, and producing, how do you mentally shift between your roles on set? And is there a rhythm you've found over the years to keep the demands clear in your mind?
didn't really kind of help me with that. What she just said. I play rock and roll, so I don't always hear everything. Would you
what she's saying is you played all the roles in this. You wrote it, you directed it, you produced it, and she wants to hear more about how you assign your different responsibilities.
Well, you know, I feel like, you know, people think you can have a career being charming and charismatic. Well, maybe you can. You can have a talk show. I'm not sure what you do, but in the movies, it really comes down to the writing. I never kid myself. My popularity, my whatever I've achieved has been a result of writing. Writing props you up. And so I start with writing. And out of that, you know, it's the Bible for me. I don't go out there and I don't make it up. That's why anybody that has confusion with 1, it will get cleared up in 2. And anybody has confusion in 2, it will clear up in 3. I'm precise about how I work. It's not random for me. It's a discipline. You know, you think I go out there and wing it? I just don't.
Is there a storyboard, like in a warehouse somewhere, where the whole thing?
There is,
all
but
4 parts?
a lot of that's for editors, and a lot of times a storyboard, generally speaking, for me, is on a very intricate scene that's lasting 6 or 7 days, like the Battle of One, which goes on for 25 minutes. And somebody said, "Well, why does it go on so long?" I said, "Because it was hell." And I want to just stay there for a moment and understand every time you saw that, it happened 100,000 times out there. Their life was turned upside down. And it wasn't because the Indians just decided to attack. It was because they were so angry.
Kevin, is it true that there's going to be a documentary about the making of Horizon? Is that going to happen?
Yes, it's going to be 6 hours.
Question from outside.
No, I'm not kidding.
Go ahead.
It's next time I see you, I'll show it to you because
I'd love
the
to
first
see it.
2 are done.
Go ahead.
I didn't realize this until just recently. I saw a tape on YouTube of your cast speaking, and they all heard all their real life accents, and I got the impression actually that you cast a lot of non-Americans in the roles. Is that correct? And was
Native
that
Americans in the role?
No, a lot of
Non-Americans.
Non-Americans,
right?
British, Australians. Is that correct?
You know, our country is made up of immigrants. They came across this ocean. But by the time of the West, it was a mixed bag because you had people who were established on the East Coast for a long time, but people continued to come. The history of the country is just we just kept coming.
But is it deliberate as a casting that you do that?
Yeah, it is. I wanted to hear different voices, and as we get farther, you'll hear some Russian. It feels right to me to do that, and a little bit of fish out of water. We have a tendency to think that everybody that was leading the wagon train knew where they were going. It's just simply not true. People were elected sometimes, and they just said, "Okay, we'll go." And sometimes they had a map, and sometimes they had a guide. And don't forget, a map could be purposefully written wrong. Don't forget, a guide could just be there taking your money. For everybody trying to make a buck in America, there's 3 people trying to steal it too.
Was it deliberate on your part? This was my wife getting the message last night, and me not understanding it.
She explained it to you in the car, though.
Yeah,
okay.
She did. But here's what she said. She said he was telling the story of Manifest Destiny. I don't know if she used those words, through a woman's perspective. I hadn't thought of it in those terms. Did you set out to present this through a woman's eye?
No, but women ended up dominating all 4 hours of a Western, all 4 episodes.
But it wasn't deliberate.
It wasn't deliberate, but every time we started writing a storyline, women went right down the center of it. And it's just the way it is. And like I say, I will get to the gunfight. And I will get to those trappings that we understand to be the West. But women dominate Horizon, and in a subtle way, but they dominate it. The way they do in life. In a subtle way, they dominate.
Here's my soundbite for your movie poster, because we only have 60 seconds left. Horizon is a movie that deserves to be seen. That's my view. Okay? Horizon is a movie that deserves to be seen. And you folks we agree? We agree. Okay. And And finally, Parade magazine. I don't know. They ranked your all-time best movies. Number 5, Dances. Number 4, Untouchables. Number 3, JFK. 2, Field of Dreams. 1, Bull Durham. Me, I'd put on that list Swing Vote. I'm a political guy. This is a political show.
Interesting.
I love, and just having been through this election, Swing Vote was awesome. So I wanted to tell you that too. All right, what a privilege this has been to have Kevin Costner for an hour at SiriusXM's headquarters in New York. Thank you. I hope I see you again, maybe after 3. Okay?
Yeah. No.
Thanks,
thank
my
you
friend.
for. Believe it or not, people like me in the independent world, they need people to talk for something if it moves them enough.
Right, you moved me.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
The courage to do that.